Good morning, South Anchorage High School, and those of you watching from the greater Anchorage area, we're probably going to have a few less students on board with us today just because they have started classes. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, classes started today, so it is a fantastic time for everyone now that we're getting back into the swing of things and having everything happen. Welcome to my garage. This is the new den. We're having a good time. First, some updates on the crew because I know some of you are really wondering how people are doing. So perfection is being achieved by crew members in their isolation, their hunker down, their lockdown, so to speak. First off, Delaney has perfected the flexibility of Muppet arms. Absolutely perfect. Followed up by Kate has broken every single piece of glass in her home using only her voice. And Logan has actually perfected hockey talk to the point where he sounds just like his heroes from Letterkenny. And with all this time at home, we can work on perfections and ourselves. And I have a tip for you today. That tip is lists. You know, lists are very important. You write things down on paper. You put little boxes next to it, tasks to complete, items you need, and then when you cross that little box, it gives you a feeling of contentment. It gives us drive. But most importantly, as we are absolutely surrounded by the void of swirling, uncontrollable gravitational chaos, the list, the list, it hugs you. It says, hey girl, we got this. And you feel better as we go through everything that's going on. When you're done making your list and you've checked every box, you can sit back down in your chair, look out your window listlessly, and feel like you're in prison. And, well, to be completely honest, we all kind of feel like we're in prison right now. And our musical guest today is going to give us a little bit of some fun tunes, reminding us. Here is Tracy Simmons. Thanks for joining us with
Hello?
Folsom Prison.
What's up? Morning, Mayor.
Oh, this is how I like to begin my morning.
I hear the train a-comin'. It's rolling around the bend. And I ain't seen the sunshine since I don't know. I'm stuck in Folsom Prison. Time keeps dragging on. But I hear that whistle blowing going down to San Antonio. When I was just a baby, my mama told me, son, always be a good boy, don't ever play with guns. But I shot a man in Reno just to watch him die. Well, I bet there's rich folks eating in a fancy dining car. They're probably drinking coffee and they're smoking big cigars. Oh, I know I had it coming. I know I can't be free. But those people keep moving, and that's what tortures me. Well, if they freed me from this prison, if that railroad train was mine, you know I'd move it on a little farther down the line, far from Folsom Prison. That's where I want to stay. Then I'd let that lonesome whistle blow my blues away.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much,
very
Tracy.
much.
I do think that you should probably get a hold of Zoom and let them know that you are definitely pushing the limits for them to understand how their mics can work in this kind of a basis. So thank you very much. Moving on, everybody, we are going to get to introduction of our guests. Please today introduce and throw your questions into the chat by all means. We will get to them as we go through. Please, thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Mayor Ethan Berkowitz, Mayor of Anchorage, and we also have ASD Superintendent Deena Bishop with us today. We also have, of course, We also have Tracy Simmons, our musical guest. We also have Dr. Luke Allman, principal of SAHS and owner of more dogs than fit into a camera frame. And then, as always, reminding us, where is he? He's two that way, I think, from what I know. We also have Mr. Tim Pernage, keeper of the sacred top knot. So we are going to move on to the question answer intro, dude. And I got to be honest, down here in my bottom right corner, go ahead and introduce yourself as you put on your hand sanitizer. Who are you? He's not, he's muted. We got to get the fun video out. All right, so I'm sure he is definitely here to help out with any questions that are being asked, so we will move on really quickly. First off, Mr. Mayor, thank you for joining us today. Looks sunny, looks nice out there, a little bit different than this garage at the moment. So we're going to just give you a couple minutes to talk to the folks back home, let them know how things are going from your kind of perspective, looking at the city and information coming in from the state, and then we're going to hit you with all the heavy hitting questions. Go ahead.
Well, that sounds great. Hey, thank you all very much for inviting me to be here. And I apologize if my bandwidth flickers because everybody in my house is on some kind of media. My son is off doing some Zoom thing, trying to learn about, I think it's physics this morning. He's a junior at another high school. My daughter, who is home from college, is also doing a class online. My wife is downstairs doing a teleconference, and I'm here doing this. And of course, I've got multiple devices all lit up. So there's many things happening. But that's just sort of the way it is. And this is how we're practicing physical distancing these days. And I say physical distancing because I don't want people to be socially distant. I want people to still remain connected. These are really tough, challenging times. And I hear about it regularly from the people who let me live with them. And what I am told is that it can be kind of boring and kind of lonesome. And we've got to do things so we can stay connected. And that's really important because the reason why we have all these orders in place is the thing that affects the transmissibility of the disease of coronavirus is not touching each other, not being close to one another. That's how the disease spreads. And there's a number of factors that go into how transmissible a disease is, some of which we can control. That's the social contact, some of which we can't, which is how long you get sick and maybe how powerful the virus is. But we're doing what we can for the things that we can control. That's called the R naught, which is the reproducibility of the virus. And one of the things that I'm finding in the course of going through this episode is I'm dusting off a lot of science and wishing I'd taken more math so I understood things a little bit better, because it's really helpful to have the kind of insight that's required to make the decisions that have to be made. But at root, it's pretty simple. Is if you think you're sick, stay away from people. Stay away from people so you don't get sick. And when you do that, it is a small act of heroism. Being bored is part of being heroic right now. Being bored means you are saving lives somewhere. And the more we can do to what we call flatten the curve, that's to say reduce the transmissibility of the disease, that's really good, because otherwise we wind up overwhelming the healthcare facilities. And the best way I've heard of explaining that is every year the Anchorage Fire Department puts out 800 fires, and they handle it beautifully and gracefully, no problem. But if we had to put out 800 fires in a single day, that would way overwhelm what we can do. And that's what we're trying to do with the COVID-19, which is make sure that it doesn't all come at once so that the resources we have are capable of treating people.
Wow.
I can carry on for a great length of time, but I suspect other folks have things to say and people want to ask questions.
That was a huge amount of information, and I just want to say, like, as someone sitting around here in my garage, very lonely, it helps to know that that's something that's valuable in what's happening with people. We do have Corinne here with a list of questions, and she's going to start dropping some questions to you right now. And feel free to answer what you can, and feel free to say, I can't answer that, or I don't know, because one of the things we've found very, very valuable through this process is hearing from people that we look to for answers, saying, hey, I know about what you know, and this is what we're trying to figure out. So go ahead, take it away, Corinne.
Hi. Okay, so our first question that we have is, how can we help others in need?
That's a great question, and I'm not going to have all the answers to that. But the first thing you can do is make sure that you're maintaining the practices that you're supposed to, washing your hands, don't touch your face, maintain the kind of physical distance that's important. But I would also look to see what kind of assistance is needed in terms of what what some of the faith-based groups are doing, and just keep an eye out on the municipal webpage at muni.org/COVID-19. Sometimes we'll have requests for what people can help. Sign up for the municipal Nixle, which is the way we broadcast information and requests for help. It's 888-777-ANCHEALTH, ANCHEALTH, and then you can stay up to date with what's going on. But we will broadcast or narrowcast or social cast the things that we need help on. But just keep your eyes and ears open, stay tuned, and it's really important. Just stay informed and stay connected, and that's how you'll know where help is needed.
That's fantastic. And just as a heads up, that Nixle is pretty handy for you guys that are joining us today that may not know yet. Mr. Overgaard over at South Anchorage High School was paying attention to Nixle the other night and was able to come up with 87 boxes of gloves and get them to a distribution point to help out with some shortages with some of our medical professionals. So big shout out to Mr. Willie Overgaard over at South Anchorage High School. Good job. And that Nixle is the system that he's able to see that. So make sure you guys are keeping track of that. Find out how you can help, where you can help, because I know that's important to a lot of us. Take it away, Corinne.
So one of the other questions that we have is basically asking, they're talking about how their parents are going out skiing with their dogs, cross-country skiing, and they're asking if that is enough social distancing.
Well, I think your parents are probably in the same household, it sounds like, and so the fact that they're skiing together is okay, and I think people should get exercise when they can. Just maintain the social distance on the trails and when you're out doing things. Look, we're really fortunate to live in Alaska where there is wide open spaces. We're not like some of those cities in the lower 48 where folks are congregating in parks and creating a problem. Not too much. And I would just urge people not to do the things that they shouldn't be doing. But it is not a problem. And, you asked the earlier question. I want to say that there's also something that's really important, is we need to remember to be kind to one another. This is an incredibly stressful situation, not just for people in school, but for parents and for folks who might be living with. And the more we can do to understand that everybody's under a little bit of stress and just sort of dig a little bit deeper and just take an extra half beat before you respond, that's understandable, and that makes it easier for everybody. But these are tough times, there's no question about it. But let's be sensible, let's be smart, and let's be kind.
That's great. Thanks for hitting a little bit on the social distancing. I think that's been a question that's come up with, I know my children a little bit. We live in the same house. We're not going to stay 6 feet apart from each other. We can go for walks together. We can hang out together. We can play games together. It's when we get out in that public area where if you see a buddy from down the street and they're walking the dog on the other side.
You froze and...
Don't worry, we're still good on this way. That is totally your bandwidth, and you are set, and we will get right back to it in just a minute. I really appreciate that you covered that because it's about staying away from people that aren't a part of your household, aren't a part of that daily interaction. So thanks for hitting on that a little bit. I really appreciate it. Corinne, do you have more for the mayor?
Yes, I do. So both the Sullivan and Ben Boki ice arenas have been converted to homeless shelters, although originally deemed temporary, with September 1st as an end date. Do you anticipate one of these or both remaining a permanent facility for the homeless?
And it looks like we may be having some bandwidth issues on that last 300 yards. That is a good lesson for all of you taking any technical classes right now. We have the bandwidth to get everything down through the big pipe, but getting it from the houses, that's the part we got to work on. So, Mayor Berkowitz, the question was, we've turned 2 facilities in town, sporting facilities, into homeless shelters on a temporary basis, originally until September 1st. Do you foresee that lasting longer or being a permanent solution on a longer-term concept?
Let me emphasize, it is not a permanent solution. The reason why we use the Boki and the Sullivan, and probably going to use the Dempsey too, is that the crowding conditions in the other shelters was too tight. It violated the Center for Disease Control requirements of how far apart people should be. In those shelters at Beans and Brother Francis, people were sleeping shoulder to shoulder. The requirements are that you have 6 feet of spacing between individuals. The only place that we could stand up quickly were the Boki and Sullivan, We've added the Dempsey to that list because if people are in the course of testing or showing mild signs of COVID, we need a place for them to go. And that's why we're using it. We do not want these to be permanent solutions. We are working on longer term solutions, but we had to act quickly, and those were the best alternatives. And I'd also say that the ice had been pulled up at the Boki and the Sullivan already, and it is in the course of being pulled up at Dempsey. These are short-term solutions, and we hope that we can, in the course of this pandemic, find housing for a lot of people, and hopefully do a bit to help solve the homelessness problem in Anchorage.
This has been a real experience for everyone. I think all of the problems that are hitting us right now and hitting us quickly have really made us start to stand around and think about, well, how do we solve these problems on a longer term basis, and how do we come up with solutions in case things like this pop up again? Which really, I mean, the heat of the fire is making the steel stronger, right? So it's pretty neat to see this stuff going on.
I'm going to shift to just audio, and hopefully that'll give me a little bit more extra bandwidth.
That's fantastic. Corinne, did you have more questions for the mayor? You need to unmute first. It's a thing.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I have a few more questions.
All right, fire away.
Someone was asking, what does the future of Anchorage look like?
The future of Anchorage is going to be written by you. And that's what the future of Anchorage looks like. And all the people who live here are going to write that future. It's not going to be what it was. It's going to be something different. And we're going to learn a lot about each other. We're going to learn what our strengths are. We're going to learn what weaknesses we have. We're going to cure those weaknesses. And I am convinced that we're going to emerge from this period of time with a greater awareness of what the opportunities are moving ahead. It's exposed some economic problems that we have. The failure to provide health care for everybody is an issue. We need to do something to correct that. The issues about employment and what employment is going to look like, those are important. But it's also given us an insight into some of the strengths that we have here, and the connection that we have as Alaskans is an incredible strength. We saw a taste of that during the earthquake. It's going to be tested during our response to the pandemic, but you know the people around you, and there are a lot of really great people doing incredibly good work here. And for those folks who might be lagging a little bit, I hope a little bit of peer pressure can put a positive spin on what they're doing and make them just elevate their game a little bit.
That's fantastic. So Corinne, I think that's up for your list. I'm going to move over a bit to Tim Pernage. Let's see if he's got some from the chat, and then we'll move back over to you, Corinne, as those have been coming in. Go ahead.
Yeah, there are a couple questions. One is, are there any areas specifically in town that we're seeing more virus or more infections?
So I'm gonna relay that because it's a little bit not hearable because that mic needs to come down in front of his mouth. But the question was, are there parts of town where there are, I mean, the small version of, say, hotspots that we should be aware of in any way?
We have not seen anything like that yet, and I hope we don't. This is one of the advantages we have of going to social distancing and hunker down quickly, is that we are ahead of where we would otherwise be. And other places are looking at the Anchorage response and the Alaska response, and they are appreciative that we got into this earlier than other places, which gives us a greater ability to handle the problem. But we have not seen any particular hotspots in Anchorage. As you know, Fairbanks has seen hotspots, and they're going to have to contend with that.
Yep. Mr. Pernage, back at you.
Yeah, so what are the expectations for our students in terms of social interactions for the near future?
Well, you know, living with students, that is a broad question. I would think we're going to be in a hunker down mode for a while. And we, you know, if it's based on it's not going to be easy. It's going to be really difficult. But I would urge people to think and draw on their knowledge of history. You know, there was a time where young people had to endure great hardship and great sacrifice. And the hardship and sacrifice of not being able to be in close proximity with friends is a small price to pay in order to save lives of people. And I would think that at any time that your energy starts to flag to where you're not certain about your ability to stick it out, think of somebody that you love. You know, think of your grandmother, or think of somebody who's got asthma, or someone who's got respiratory challenges, and know that you are staying socially apart in order to save that person's life.
That's a good answer. It's a good answer. Corinne, you got one to follow up for that?
Yes, I do. So, I think you already touched on if you're going to have to extend the hunker down order again. Do you know how long that would possibly go for?
So let me explain what the why I only did it. First, I did it to March 31st because we needed to get an understanding of what was going to happen. Then I went to April 14th, which is as far as I can go because the mayor's emergency powers are authorized by the assembly. The assembly gave me until April 14th. I am going to ask them to extend that period of time. The governor's orders extend basically until he decides to rescind them. That's a preferable way of looking at the problem. And folks want a hard date on when this is going to end. There is no hard date. Look at the data that's out there. Look at the evidence that's out there. We just released some modeling that people should take a look at and get an understanding of why there aren't hard dates out there. We're going to look for what the trends are, what our capacity is. We're going to look at what the experience is in other parts of the country and other parts of the world to see when we can ease off. The availability of testing is really important for having an understanding of how pervasive the disease is in the community, how widespread it is. We don't have testing at that level yet. Don't touch your face. I saw that, Corinne. Don't do that. You should think about that. And so we have the ability to figure things out. We just need more data and we need clearer modeling.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Pernich. One more, and then Corinne will be back at you for the last one for the mayor.
Mayor, how do you think the Anchorage will be affected in the tourism industry for the summer?
I think tourism is going to take a big hit this summer. There's no question about that. Most of the world is in a hunker down mode, and we're going to have to deal with the economic realities of that. But it also, we have an economic resilience task force that is in place. We are looking at ways we can rebuild the tourism and come back stronger than ever in the future. This gives us also an opportunity to revision what we want Anchorage to look like economically. And it's a little bit like hitting a pause button, and we can take a look around and do what we can. I think we also need to be incredibly aware that there are an awful lot of people who've lost jobs and who have incredible economic insecurity. There's people who've spent a lifetime building businesses that are now closed up. That's really hard. We're working really diligently to try and find a way of solving those problems. But it's also important for people to understand that you cannot really separate the public health challenge from the economic challenge. That if we ease off on the solutions to public health, we don't solve the economic challenges. Solving the two of them has to operate in conjunction. They work together.
These are good answers. I think this may be why you were elected. So moving on just a little bit more, and then we'll get to, I think that was it for questions for the mayor, but I do want to hit that question on, I got one more from Corinne, but just that idea of tourism. I think Miss Amy Haberstead is in the chat right now, and she's going to jump in there and let us know what day, but I'm pretty sure, South, that next week at some point, we do have a Spirit Day that is dressed like a tourist. So that is going to be a fantastic way to support our tourist industry by becoming tourists in our houses. So that's going to be fantastic. Corinne, last question. We're going to move on to Dr. Bishop because she is also a busy, busy lady because it's the first day of school. Go ahead, Corinne.
Okay, so my last question is, do you think that ordering food to help small businesses is a smart decision, or should we stay away from takeout?
That is a really great question. In our house, we've been ordering food because we know a lot of people who work in restaurants and we want to support them. But I also know a lot of people in the restaurant business who are thinking that maybe they shouldn't be working there, and they're reevaluating what's going on. I think as long as the restaurants are open and there's curbside pickup, it's an okay thing to do. But if we have to ratchet down the amount of contact that we have between people, I would suspect you're going to see more businesses, more restaurants closing on their own temporarily. Some of that's made easier because the federal stimulus package gives money, gives unemployment and direct support to people that work in restaurants. So that makes it a little bit easier for restaurant owners to say, okay, we're not keeping people here just to keep them here. But people still need to pay bills, and that's a consideration. But I would hope that people not only eat well during this time of hunker down, but also take the opportunity to exercise as well, and do the kind of mental work that's necessary to stay sharp, and then everybody will be okay. You know, there's the Latin expression is mens sana in corpore sana, a sound mind and a sound body, and I expect people to do what they can to keep a sound mind and a sound body. And come up with some great recipes if you get the chance to do some cooking.
Speaking of recipes, we're going to be having a special guest on Thursday, so make sure we use that moment to transition into that. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. Thank you, Mayor Berkowitz, for joining us today. I'm going to kick it over to you one last time just to ask if you have anything else you want to say as you jump out, and then we will move on to Dr. Bishop because she's got some great information coming out to everybody, including what to expect over the next couple days. So, Mayor Berkowitz, thank you again. Come on anytime. You're always welcome on The Den. We appreciate you taking the time to talk to us, clarifying some questions, some answers, and answering some questions from actual people that may not come from a newspaper. So we dig it. Thank you so much, and we're going to kick it back to you if you have one last thing to say before we move on.
I just want to say thanks very much for giving me the opportunity to talk to you all and answer some questions. I will tell you this, I am incredibly proud of the Anchorage response to this challenge. We have risen, and we are going to keep rising. This is a very difficult time. It is going to be darker before it is better, but we have the strength to get through it. We have the innovative qualities to get through this. And as long as we're kind and we care about each other and stay informed, we're going to stay connected, and we're going to do the right thing as much as possible. When this is all done, I want people to be able to look back and say that they were part of solving an incredibly difficult challenge, and that we are a more tightly bound community, and it's going to give us strength into the future. So thank you. And I also just want to say one thing. Dr. Bishop was a leader in making this happen. The school district was on this before anybody else was, and they deserve an awful lot of credit for that.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Mayor Berkowitz. We really appreciate you joining us. And speaking of, what another great transition. Well done. That was a great handoff. In the business, that was a phenomenal handoff. Just want to let you know. So, Dr. Bishop, thank you for joining us. I see you are double fisting your beverages this morning. We have a red straw and a coffee cup. That is some hard-working folks right there. Welcome back to the Den. We are super stoked you're here. We're glad you could join us. If, like usual, give us an overview of where we're kind of sitting, and then we'll start throwing those hard balls at you.
All right, I'll take those hard balls. So today was go live, and that just meant that the expectation for courses to start for everybody started today. We're doing a slow roll in so that those that aren't used to getting online and touching base can get up to speed just with core classes. Then we'll add in electives. There are office hours that you can Zoom for help. We have resources online. If you have never used things like Khan Academy, they'll be your friend for, you can hit replay as the person teaches you how to do that math problem or whatever it is. In elementary school and middle school as well, it's really the same, but it's not as deliberate and detailed as high school. I just want to let you guys know you're going to be working the most, and because you are earning credits that can stand up to NCAA and anybody else. Any kind of inquiry or audit that we have, the courses that you're going to get credit for will meet that muster, just so you know.
Great. So I think then, if you're ready to move on to the question phase,
Sure.
I will kick it over to, I think Corinne's starting us out, or Clara, are you taking it today? We going Corinne? We going Corinne. There you go. Go Corinne.
Go, Kriner.
Okay, so my first question is, could the school year possibly be extended?
It will be extended for those students who need the time. So right now, generally seniors get out earlier to do the graduation. We're actually having the end of school for everyone as May 21st, just so that the 2 weeks that we missed, we could make up and have that time to finish the courses. But if any student needs additional time because of this online learning for any other reason, you might be sick during this time as well, we're going to extend it until the end of June. Yeah, June 30th. And then we'll probably, for younger students, do an early back to get kids caught up if they need just that extra work, those that missed out on different lessons. And because, think about this time, kids are actually learning to read now in 1st and 2nd grade. And we need to continue because, you learn to read and then you read to learn. So we need that skill.
Thank you. Am I good for the next
You
question?
are. You keep going. Corinne, you own this for about the next 4 questions.
Okay.
Apparently, I need the extra 3 weeks.
We'll get that for you.
Okay, and this question is kind of, I don't know exactly how to ask this, but is the graduation ceremony for each school date still the same?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm going to have to check with secondary. I know that specifically what the mayor mentioned about how this could go on even longer than it already is. We will probably be in what he calls, I guess now, physical distancing. And I'm not sure if I imagine they would keep the date. I'll check with secondary ed, even though kids might continue to work. I think the ability to graduate and have that celebration will stay the same. But I'll get back to you by Thursday morning at the next den with that answer.
That's great.
Thank you. And kind of a sub question for that, is there any talk of holding prom and or graduation later in the summer?
If there has been ideas about that, and if we're allowed and we kind of see the light at the end of this tunnel, then I think that that's definitely a possibility to continue to do.
Okay, and last week you said that you would send a message to all the seniors, but we never.
It didn't come. Yes. I have to take, I apologize for that. Those that are working with the seniors in secondary ed, it's actually the leader of that is a former principal of South Anchorage High School, Dr. Kirsten Johnson Strumpler, and she and her team are narrowing down the information. And what they said is as soon as they got the school up, they would get another message. Also, the former principal of Eagle River High School, Marty Lang, is also those two are working with the high school principals to come up with some solutions. And Mr. Allman might know more than I do, particularly at this moment, or maybe none of us know yet, but it is a possibility. We thought we'd have that out, but with this situation, things just change every day. Sorry about that. I do owe you an apology because I actually said that on a message to everyone. Couldn't make that work.
Okay, it's really okay. Everyone's got a lot going on. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any more for you, Corinne? Drop it over to the chat. Mr. Pernage. I really like this, by the way. I feel like I can just reach through here and but then my arm disappears and I want to just, be
All right,
good.
so we'll first start off with some good things. Abby says, thank you, ASD, for an incredible amount of work you have put forth to provide supplemental materials, support for your staff and families. Providing food, technology, internet, and a plan is huge. And I want to make sure that that's said out loud.
Can I say something about that? So here's something that you would never believe that's kind of really cool. So we have 108 school nurses, and some of them traveled over the break, so they were in quarantine. But about 20 nurses or so are on that 211 line. So they work for the city now on the information line. But this is a cool thing. This is what our nurses are doing. There's another about 18 to 20 nurses that are working on this CSI unit, sort of. So when they find a COVID case, they track down the people around them. Everything from when the person says, well, I went to Costco last Wednesday, they get the receipt of, their credit card or their debit card. And then they get the film of Costco and all the receipts, and they track down all the people around around them to be able to narrow down and get all those people tested. So they're kind of doing this super work that is outside of a high school, outside of kind of what high school nurses do, to be able to really help in this whole thing in the city. So I want to give a shout out to ASD nurses. They're also making home visits and other things. But the coolest thing is they are part of tracking down this virus and who might be affected by it. I thought that was pretty cool.
See, folks, when we get back, not only should you thank your nurses, but you should be scared of their abilities.
They can find you in any video. But just think, like, if you bought something somewhere and you could have been behind somebody in a line, but that's how detailed it is and how serious the mayor's taking this and finding it and stopping the spread. So we're happy about that, and we're happy to help.
That's great. Back to you, Tim.
Yes. So as we're getting through this and we're getting closer to summer and more outdoors, there's a few questions, like people are going out skiing. Can we still recreate and get out? What's that going to look like for students as social distancing getting into the summer?
Sure. So as the mayor had said, getting out and getting fresh air is absolutely appropriate with those physical distancing. And if you do see people together, it's generally because they are in the same household, so they're together anyway. But I am an early riser, and I'm up taking my dogs for a walk before 5 a.m. and I'm still doing it. And then also at night we go out again. I think that we're going to need it. We need to be outside. We have Alaska, and that's part of the beauty of being here is the outdoors. So I hope that folks can get out, and just remember, we're not going to go hang out with somebody at the park or start playing a game where we're all touching the same ball or something, because we got to still keep that physical distance.
A particular person in here was talking about paper materials. I know we just kind of had this whole rollout for technology that families needed for school. Is there any talk about being able to drop off or distribute paper materials that might be needed?
Sure. So I'm hoping in the background my dog's seeing somebody walking right now in front of the house. So the paper materials, what was great yesterday was over 700 hotspots went out, as well as it was actually over 1,400 computers. So we're hitting high schoolers first and working down. But for those that would, some families just don't want the internet in their house and the access for their kids. So we are doing paper packets, but we're trying to find how do we keep the least amount of hands on them. So we're trying to go right from computer to a printing center mailed out to homes. And that's being arranged right now through purchasing and getting an order for that. Really, our employees who would ordinarily come in and work together on things, we want to keep them safe as well during this time. So we're trying to figure out and find the companies around town that we can keep hired and keep them in business by going through this, computer to download, to print, to mail with the fewest hands possible on it. So that's being worked out right now.
And while we dig the idea that the fewest hands possible are going on to stuff, people at home, just keep in mind that there are some systems you can put in place to bring things into your home from outside of your home and clean them properly before you kind of have them distributed around and being touched and used by your kids and your children and your little brothers and sisters and things like that. In fact, some of the crew members are actually right now at this moment putting together a video to help you set up a system to bring things into the home in a proper way and clean them properly so that there's less chance of anything that might be still residual in those spaces, so you can kind of sanitize and move on and utilize those things. And maybe it's not necessary, but we're kind of in the time where things that weren't always necessary and might be overboard, if it's overboard, it doesn't hurt you in this situation at all. Back to you, Tim.
Yeah, so there's just one more on here that I think needs to be touched on is class schedules. I think there are still some people out there with questions about scheduling for classes.
Scheduling for next year or scheduling right now?
What are we doing right now? Yeah, kind of thing.
Okay, right now, I encourage you to go to the website and you'll take a look at secondary education. And yesterday and today, or today and tomorrow rather, are opportunities to log on, four different classes a day to log on with those teachers, so you can touch base and get individual information for that. There's Zoom accounts or Zoom numbers that you can log in. And then starting after that, there's office hours and just different times that you can do your classes. So we do have that posted. It just is a little chart, and it says orientation, which is Tuesday, Wednesday, and then the rest of the days have that information. It can be found on the ASD website, and look under secondary education. It'll be under the resources for distance delivery as well.
That's great. Clara, I did want to ask you to jump in real quick for a minute and kind of explain some of the feelings that you were explaining earlier during show prep about some of the anxieties that you were feeling in preparation for today and tomorrow and this week.
Yeah, he asked me how I was doing, and I was kind of like, well, it's all really stressful. It's a totally new way of schooling that nobody's like really had to do before. And like, I've done online classes before, but I haven't done 7 at once.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just kind of like, I know that we're all trying to adapt to it at the same time, and teachers are and administration is. So we're all kind of on the learning curve right now. And I just really hope that this show, that the Den, and other stuff that teachers and administration are doing are kind of going to help with that transition.
And I think maybe part of that question that came up, and you folks back home, just to think about a little bit, thank you, Clara, that was amazing, thanks for sharing that with us, is that there is anxiety of, hey, I'm supposed to be from 9 a.m. till 3 p.m. in these Zoom meetings all day today, and I have office hours every day, plus I'm in Canvas, and I have this stuff that I need to take care of, and oh no, what am I going to do? Plus I need to walk my dog and social distance and clean up after it and all of these things, and it just builds up, and we have this tendency when that one little ball starts rolling down that hill of anxiety, it just builds and builds, and more gravel starts falling, and then we're buried under our own worries. And so our job here a little bit is to look at you right now through this screen and break that fourth wall and say to you specifically, you guys, do the Canvas assignments, and the Zoom hours, all those Zoom hours, those are office hours. Those are times when you can go and ask questions that you have about what's going on in class. You don't have to be there the whole time, every time. It's a chance for you to touch base, ask questions, see some of your friends, do some of that stuff like that. And then there's those tutorial hours, which teachers are likely going to schedule with you individually if you need extra help that they notice. But right now, your responsibility is just go meet with your teachers today for a little bit, find out what they expect from you, do the Canvas stuff. Just get it done. Some of you are going to just blast through it. Some of you are going to wait till the last minute because I know who you are. And then some of you don't get past that May 21st because that means you're going to be into it into June. So right now, sit down, make yourself a schedule. I have a 15-year-old. She came to me and I realized she's smarter and wiser than I've ever been. She said, I'm just going to work on my Canvas stuff during the normal time I would have classes if I were in school. And at the end of that time, I'm going to pretend I hear a bell and I'm moving on to the next one. So come up with something that works for you so that stress isn't there, and realize that we're all in this together, every single one of us. And that's kind of where we're at.
And you could actually, if there's one that is easier than another and you get frustrated, go to the one that's the easiest, that you're like, oh, I got this one. And you can work at your own pace. So, get ahead a little bit and then look at something that might be more difficult, where then you would want to log in on a Zoom with your teacher and ask for help. But again, it's not the same as being all day long, because I can't imagine sitting for 7.5 hours just zooming and zooming and zooming. So it is time to take a break, go and work online, and you'll see that you're going to read a little bit, go study some videos, and then come back and answer some questions, and the program's going to keep you moving along. And your teachers are going to be coaches now, and they're just going to coach folks through and just think about teachers. Some of them, and this is the first time they've really had to teach through a camera as well and through a computer. So I sent out a video last week and just said, we're just like, we're going to give everybody some grace. We want teachers to be understanding of parents and homes, and we want parents at home to be understanding of teachers. and we'll be understanding of the kids, but we know that life doesn't stop. I mean, you still have to do those chores and cook dinner and, you know, everything else that you guys like to do, and have that time to jam to your own music and take time away. I think my daughter is more in her room than I've ever seen her, and usually she just comes home on holidays and stuff. So she's stressing. She has to finish her school year online as well. And I want to tell you, she hates it, and she complains to me 24 hours a day. But it's just something she's got to do. And at this, I just tell her, you have to do, you got to do what you have to do to get the things that you want to do. And she wants to graduate, so she just has to you know, get through it. And I think we're all going to be doing that. So I just appreciate the show. Your connections you make with everybody is helpful. You're fun, you're exciting, and it's something to look forward to. You probably, those 2 days make people excited. All right, so I'm going to take off and see you guys. And remember, below the chin, below the chin.
Thank you, Dr. Bishop. It is always phenomenal to have you on the show. You are welcome here anytime. We really appreciate it. And we dig the time that you take to let us know in our small community so we can share that with us. I'm going to kick over to you one last time if there was anything else you wanted to say, and then we're going to move over to Dr. Allman. She's all set. She's feeling good. So thanks again. Always, you're welcome to hang out, and you're welcome to come by anytime you want. Thank you for everything that you're doing for all of us. We really appreciate it. We're going to move over to Dr. Allman, get some information from head honcho over at South Anchorage High School, and then we still have Tracy with us because he's got something special lined up for us. We really appreciate his patience today, kind of hanging with us and zooming through the 7 hours a day. That was some good visuals there. We dig that. And so moving over, hey, Dr. Allman, welcome back. We hope things are going well in your world, and we would love to hear what South students can expect over the next few days. And I want to thank all of my crew members who took the time to be here today. They are missing their initial orientations. They're going to go take those orientations tomorrow because they wanted to be here to support the show. We really appreciate it, even though they all have their hands all over their faces all the time, no matter what we say. It just doesn't change. All right, go ahead, Dr. Allman.
Yeah, just to kind of reiterate what everyone else has said here so far, we're getting restarted today and tomorrow in those orientation sessions. So I'd encourage everyone who is not here helping us, who are students, to check in with your teachers. It'll be a good, I think, social opportunity to get reconnected and then to figure out what the plan is moving forward to get to that content. And then also to kind of reach back to what Mayor Berkowitz said, that really right now it's the small acts that are heroic. And so don't underestimate the small things that you're doing for yourself, for your family, that are going to add up in the long run and be really, really important in helping us get through this time, no matter if it's going to be a little bit difficult in the interim.
That's great. I'm glad you mentioned the small things. I'm glad the mayor mentioned the small things. I'm glad everyone mentions what we need to do for each other, because in a few minutes, just as a reminder, Tracy's going to be going over some really great things that are happening in town that you folks can get involved in and help out with, and I think that's super great. Dr. Allman, we're going to hit you with some questions. Corinne, you want to jump on the question board that people are leaving questions again at southvote.com. Any questions you have, whether you can watch live or not, you can ask those questions at southvote.com, and then we will go over them and ask those questions of people in the stream, and it does archive, so you can come back and watch later if you're in the middle of Zoom questions or, you know, running a district.
Okay, so my first question is, my child missed 2 days of school prior to spring break and still needs to make up the test she missed. How will that work?
I think the simplest way to go about that is to reach out to the specific teacher and work that out. My anticipation is that they'll absolutely give you the opportunity to make that test up. I just don't know if it's going to be the exact way you would be used to. So obviously we're not coming to classrooms making up the test at either lunch or after school. So it'll have to be kind of an individual agreement between the teacher and the student, but absolutely send that teacher an email, or even get into that orientation session if it's going to happen today or tomorrow, and ask that question so that you can find a solution and make those points up.
Thank you. And the next question is, how can students sign up to be on the email list for the emails Dr. Allman sends to parents?
So you can we did send a survey link out for updated contact and email and phones as well, because it goes out about all different ways. So after we get done with the show today, I'll try to push that out this afternoon to everyone. I'll also put it on my Twitter handle, so that's at Dr_Allman. I'll put it on my website, which is drallman.com. And like I said, I'll also send it out an email. That link, if you'll put new email, new phone number, new contact information, is going directly to our clerical staff, who I'd like to shout out here and just give a big thank you to, because they're continually updating Q. They're working behind the scenes to make sure everybody else can do their jobs. And we'll make sure to get those contacts updated so that you can get the updates that I push out.
So you heard it here, folks. drallman.com, Twitter at Dr_Allman, and we'll buy every other URL we can and domain we can to connect that somehow to it at some point. So he will be the master of all things, Dr. Allman. I do have to get the clip, and it's crazy. It's driving me nuts every single time. Pernage, we have to figure it out. So next time we're on the show, we can do the whole Spies Like Us. Doctor. We're not doctors. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, we're going to move on. Do you have any more questions there, Corinne, before we go to the chat?
Yes, I do. The next question is, can we get a prorated refund on our parking pass? And prorated means half.
Yeah, so before the show kind of went live this morning, we were prepping, we were talking about this. Refunds for lots of different things are happening right now, as best we can, while we have people remotely trying to do those, which means the systems run just a little bit slower. But yes, parking pass refunds will occur for second semester, and then one other refund will be activities fees, but those are coming slowly but surely. And again, clerical staff is doing an amazing job. We're depending on them to get that information and that money back out. But please give them some grace and some patience, and they will do their very best to make sure you get that money back.
You guys got third quarter parking for free.
And the next question is, if by some miracle we go back to school after May 1st and someone completes all their courses by then online, what would happen for that student?
That is a really good question that I don't really have the answer to. The thing I was thinking when you were asking it, though, is if by some miracle we get back after May 1st and I'm a kid who's done with my classes, I'm still coming to school, because that's my spot. I mean, I miss everyone, and it would be a good chance to come back and just get reconnected. So we'll have a big celebration. That's all I will say if we're at school on May 1st or soon thereafter.
Would you say we're going to party like it's 1999?
I would say that.
Who's old enough to understand that reference? What? I didn't know. Okay. All right. So anything else, Corinne, before we move into the chat? Awesome. Go for it.
People are asking if there's any news on getting back into the school, since a lot of people left their makeup, their computer, their binder, other things at the school.
In the interest of the health of our whole community, the answer is unfortunately no for the time being. If in the future we have less restrictions, then we can certainly look into it. But besides just getting that technology out, which happened yesterday and is happening right now, at least a very small group of people this morning, the buildings are going to be shut down so that we can try to get out of this sooner. So it's another one of those small heroic acts that needs to happen. That self-sacrifice needs to happen. So hopefully we can all be together sooner in the future.
I really want my makeup back. I mean, imagine waking up every day looking like this and having no paint. It's horrible.
I left a sandwich on my desk. I was hoping to get that.
Yeah, he's hungry. He's always hungry. All right. Mr. Pernage, do you have anything from the chat?
Yeah, there's a couple things. So a student early on asked if they could skip school, and they quickly retracted that message on there, but I caught it. And I think it's actually a very, very valid question, because can I skip the Zoom office hours, or can I skip the work that's being done? And we have touched on this before, but I think it needs repeating.
The Zoom sessions, I think Dr. Bishop alluded to this as well, and Mr. Butterfield are optional. So skipping a Zoom session is not a problem. I also think it's been mentioned for many people many times, but you've got to figure out a routine that works for you. The work that's on Canvas does have to get done so that you can get a grade, get a credit, get closer to graduation. How you do that can look a little bit different now than it did when you were going to class at a specific time on a specific day, day in, day out at the same time. So Zoom is optional. I would encourage people to check in, though, both with their teachers and their fellow students, because, again, we want to stay connected even though we're socially distant. It's the Canvas content that's non-negotiable. That needs to get done so you can get points, get credits, and get graduated.
Thank you, Dr. Alman. I know I got two more from Corinne, and then we'll kick it back to Mr. Pernage. So this is your invite, those of you watching live. Again, smaller crowd today, but we're going to be here no matter what. We know a lot of people are in their Zoom meetings right now. But while you're there, while Corinne asks these next two questions, feel free to get those questions, 3 questions. Feel free to type those questions into the live chat to the right of the show today, and we will get to those as we go. Go ahead, Corinne.
Thank you. Do you have to have a certain type of computer for Canvas to work?
I think I'll kick that one back to Mr. Butterfield, who's more expert than I am with Canvas.
Not necessarily a specific type of computer. If you're running a Chromebook or something like that, it is what we call a web-based app. So it's not really dependent upon your computer per se to be able to use. It's more dependent a little bit, I would say, with my experience in Canvas, is what you're using to access it as a web browser. I will tell you, and I have thousands of students who have used Canvas over the time, and I've worked with them. Google Chrome tends to work the best with Canvas. You see a lot of problems with Firefox that I've seen in the past, and I mean, who uses Edge anyway? And if you have Internet Explorer, you need to have a long conversation with yourself on the outside of this and come to terms with some of reality. So I would say Google Chrome is the best place to use it, but it shouldn't be a problem on the device. In fact, if you guys check it out, your teachers have probably emailed you today and will bring it up in their orientation. We have some fabulous videos put together by Bria and John and Corinne about how to set up Canvas through the app on your phone. So you can do a lot of your work there right on your phone. And if you have a smartphone, it's going to be perfectly fine. You're more limited by what kind of internet you have and using that specific browser if you're on a laptop or a desktop, something like that. All right, go Corinne.
How will tests be proctored on Canvas?
Also a Mr. Butterfield or Mr. Pernage question. Maybe we'll let Mr. Pernage answer that one.
So tests being proctored, that is a very good question. Canvas works a little bit differently, so the larger tests, maybe like a final exam, we're still kind of holding off on the final details for that type of thing. But a lot of the assignments will be Canvas-based quizzes and discussions and things you have to type up and submit as a file. And those types of things are kind of set up to be graded as they're going. As far as proctoring them, we are kind of relying on you guys. There are some things in Canvas we can do. I can tell when you click off your screen and go to a different screen, and I can tell how long it took you to answer a particular question. If it takes you 5 seconds to do the whole quiz, I kind of know something is up. So there are some systems in place within Canvas to kind of proctor itself.
Fantastic. Corinne, was that it for your 3? I feel like that was 2, but I've lost all count. So go ahead with your last question, Corinne.
My last question. Can I return this? You didn't buy the dress from us, sorry. But that is a good question, Dr. Allman. When we really don't know what's happening for graduation, whether it's virtual or in person and things like that, a lot of people have invested a lot of time and a lot of money into their accoutrements of this celebration. So that is a viable question. Is something being worked out with whoever it is that sells those to everybody and has the best contract in the world? Are they going to work with students and maybe work something out?
I don't know the specific answer right now, but I will reach out to Jostens and see if I can get an answer for Thursday's show.
Great. We really appreciate that. We appreciate that someone with your weight can give them a call and say, hey, you got customers every year from us, and this year it's a little bit different. I think we should work something out. I think that'd be a good idea. All right. Hey. All right. So we are going to kick it over to Tracy because Tracy has some great news for us. We've heard over and over again questions of how can we help? What can we do without putting ourselves in, at risk, at a greater risk than we want to be? And sometimes helping people includes risk. But one of the things we're learning right now is that there are ways to help people with putting yourself at less risk. And Tracy's done a bunch of work for us to come on today to let us know what's happening in town and how you folks at home, if you have the means to be able to help, can help. And I think that's important as we move through this. Go ahead, take it away, Tracy.
Thanks so much for letting me be here today, guys. Love what you are doing, and shout out to the mayor and Dr. Bishop. You guys are doing a great job. So there are a lot of things going on around the community that you could be involved in. I don't have a ton of them on the list today, but I really wanted it to be something just to highlight a couple of things, but also to let you know that there are a lot of things going on, and you just got to go out there and look for them. And then ultimately, if you have an idea and you go, hey, I wonder if anybody's doing anything like this, and the answer you find is no, then maybe you're the one who's supposed to kick that off and get that going and do something great in the community. So here's just like 3 or 4 things. One of these that I've seen here in the last week is a brand new bistro that had just opened up, and then bam, this whole thing happens, and they're trying to figure out and scramble how are they going to survive, what are they going to do. It's called Altura Bistro, locally owned, chef-run kind of place, high-end food. But they started here a few weeks ago. They just put out a little blurb. They used to do a bunch of food prep and particularly soup prep for other restaurants in town, and that business just poof was gone. And they had a bunch of soup, and they said, we don't want to throw this away, so we're going to put it together in these commercial bags that you can use or put in your freezer, and please help us get rid of this soup. And it took off like a rocket, which is awesome for them. But then they turned around and said, we're going to sell these in 1-gallon bags, and for every 5 bags that are bought, we're going to donate a bag to Bean's Soup Kitchen downtown. And the first few days that they did that, they donated 113 gallons of soup to the Bean's Soup Kitchen because people came and bought bags to take home. So you can find them on Facebook, Altura Bistro. I think Mr. B is going to have that information in the show description. And, some of it looks fantastic, not really expensive, but also does a good thing. So every bag that you buy works towards donating bags to those who are homeless and in need. Another one, this only goes through...
Real quick, Tracy, I just want to clarify for everybody, you want to help people? Buy soup. Back to you.
There you go. You said something yesterday, Mr. B. We can't get out of our houses, but we can do what? How did you say it? It was good, but not good enough for me to remember.
I don't know what I said yesterday. If you can't remember what I said yesterday, it might not have been that good.
We can't get out of our houses, but we can get out in the community by doing some of these good things. This one only goes through April 5th. It's with Credit Union 1. They have some of their clients are restaurants in town, and there's a list on their Facebook page, places like Lahn Pad Thai, Kriner's Diner, Altura Bistro is one of those, West Berlin, Taste of Thai, Moe's Deli and Catering. There's a few others. But what they're doing is if you will do curbside pickup, if the places are providing that, or they might even be having delivery, if you will take a picture of your food, put it out on social media, and hashtag that with CU1Foodie, they will donate $50 for every order that they see that on social media to that company to help support them and their support staff, their serving staff, and all that kind of stuff. I think that's awesome because, everybody loves food and you got to eat. So when you get the chance to order out, think about some of these places that you might be able to do that. And then another one.
Just to clarify again, and I'm going to jump in every once in a while because I'm just like that. But I just wanted to clarify that's Credit Union 1. When you order from these places and you take a picture and you put that hashtag, which Tracy's going to let us hear again, and Mr. Pernage is going to listen to it and put it into the chat. When you put that hashtag on the picture and throw it out on social media, Credit Union 1 is going to put money towards that staff. These are people that are losing money and losing hours and needing to survive, just like you and I. Credit Union 1 is jumping in and they're going to say, hey, you know what? You want to help people? Eat, take a picture, tag it, and we're going to pay them a $50 tip. So
Yeah,
go
that's
ahead and give us that hashtag again.
That's exactly right. So it's hashtag CU1, Credit Union 1, CU1 Footy. Foodie, not footy, not footies like
not
you
footy.
were. CU1 Foodie, right? So drop that out there. It'll help a whole lot of people. Another one, I just got two more to quickly blast through here. We heard earlier from the mayor about, supporting our frontline staff out there. We heard from Dr. Bishop about the nurses in the Anchorage School District, but doctors, nurses, healthcare staff working in the emergency rooms in the hospitals. We're all aware probably that there's the shortage on emergency supplies like masks and respirators and gowns. There's a ton of people on Facebook in particular, but I'm sure you can also find them on other social media platforms who have developed plans. If you're a crafty kind of person, or you want to become a crafty kind of person, you know how to sew, or you want to learn how to sew, use a sewing machine, where you can make masks that will assist those people in your local community. And some of them are not they won't protect you from the virus, but you might have a nurse who's wearing a personal protective piece like an N95 mask, and they want to protect that for as long as they can, because as soon as it gets dirty, it has to go out. So they can put a cloth mask over that and use that mask longer. But they also have plans where if places there's a little filter, an N95 filter that can be placed in a pocket, and those can be used in our emergency staff and in situations where they're dealing with people who may have the virus or already have the virus. So you can find all those instructions. There's a Facebook group right here in Alaska called Alaska Mask Makers. They have all of the instructions, lots of people to help, and they're working on even donating fabric. So if you don't have fabric, they can probably connect you with the materials. And listen, that's a huge thing that we hope is not going to be a big deal for us here in Alaska. We're hoping we're really flattening that curve hard right now, but it's still something that we need, and you could jump in and help with that. And there's other opportunities like that. And then the last one, places, the mayor mentioned earlier about faith-based groups, and there's a lot of them in this town, and one of them is like my church that I pastor. We're trying to do some things in the community, and one of the things that we've done for the last 20 years, we have provided a meal for a place called the Clare House here in Anchorage. And the Clare House is an emergency shelter for women and children who are fleeing from domestic violence, or mom's lost the job and been kicked out of the apartment, all kinds of scenarios, but it's women and children. They have consistently had from 45 to 60 residents in their facility for as long as I've been working with them. And once a month, places like our church provide a full meal for the people that are there in that residential housing. Ours happens to be this coming Friday, the first Friday of the month. And normally we would go and we would buy gallons of milk and fresh vegetables and an entree meat that they would cook there at the facility. But we can't do that anymore because we can't deliver food like that. So our church is contracting with a catering company to go and deliver food like that. But here's the deal. A place like Clare House, they do this every day of the year. People help them feed the people that are staying there. And now this has become a huge issue. They're trying to do the best they can to keep that physical distancing going on, but now their whole system has been thrown into array. So you could make a donation to Clare House. You can find them online. I think it's clarehouse.org. You could make a donation to our church. It's c3ak.com. And you can find a donate page there. It'll give you all the instructions of how to make a donation. And if you put on there that it's going for Clare House or for food, we'll put every dollar of that towards helping to feed those women and children at the shelter. And that's just to say, kind of to close that out, there are lots of opportunities like that in town. Our social organizations that serve the people on the fringes, the people with the least, the people that are in the highest risk categories and don't have stable environments or food security, those places really need our assistance. So that's why I love the thing about Altura Bistro, something like helping with the Clare House, and you could do that through them directly or through our church, however you want to do that. But it's a good thing to do, and get outside your house, right? You can't leave your house, but you can still get out in your community by doing good things, and I think that is a good thing.
That's pretty phenomenal. So those of you at home, hey, Hey, if you're a South Anchorage High School student or parent, likely a lot of us are doing okay and we're figuring things out. And yes, everyone's kind of struggling right now, but some of us have some means above some of the folks that are mostly threatened. So some things you can do: eat soup, okay? Order food, take pictures, and tag that picture. Make masks. Check out the Facebook page, Alaska Mask Makers. And finally, figure out, do some donations for groups like Clare House and for C3AK.com. And put in there, hey, I want this going to feed people. I want to help people as we're going through this and make this happen. Anchorage, you're beautiful, like in so many ways. Your mountains, your ocean, your skies, your people. This is a phenomenal space. It's a phenomenal group of people. And when we look at the numbers, I look at numbers here, I look at numbers back in the state I grew up in, and we're getting it. We're figuring it out. And Anchorage is doing a really good job figuring it out and making this work. But one of the reasons is because we're understanding how to separate and come together at the same time. And I think that's really huge for what's going on around here. We are going to move into a little bit of school news, a little bit. Tracy, thank you again. Stick around because he's going to sing us out today. It's going to be awesome. So he's going to be rocking and rolling a little bit. A couple of pieces of information, and Mr. Pernage will definitely get these links in from the show prep link. Important links for parents. Parents, if you're watching right now, whether live or in the recorded piece, you can log in and set up a Canvas Observer account specific to your students. So you can go in and check their grades on Canvas, see what's late, see what's turned in, see what isn't. Yet another tool ASD is giving you to monitor and harass your children into getting good grades. So check that out. The link will be in the chat and in the description if you're watching later on, as well as a big shout out to all the teachers that are working really hard, not only to teach their classes, but also to keep things going, to kind of bind the South community together and get you what it is that you want. So if you have not yet purchased a yearbook, you can still order your yearbooks. That is at www.yearbookforever.com. There's going to be some processes to go through to find your school, purchase your yearbook, make sure you get it. I mean, from a collector's standpoint, and I don't collect dolls, they're action figures, but from a collector's standpoint, I do just gotta say that, like, this is the yearbook to have, right? This is the 2020 yearbook, right? This is the coronavirus yearbook. It's fantastic. You're gonna set it on a shelf, put it in a shadow box, never open it, unwrap it in 30 years, and it's gonna be worth $1 billion. Or you might open it and look at a friend. And then that will also be in there. And then also don't forget, folks, as I transfer back over here, Mr. Pernage is going to throw up the graphic for next week's Spirit Week so that you guys can think about that a little bit. So we're going to pop over that. Go ahead, Mr. Pernage. Take control of the airwaves. And Mr. Pernage is showing us there. That is our Spirit Week next week. Monday is Pajama Day because your school is at home. I think Savannah's done a great job. She's in her pajamas today and rocking and socking. I don't even think she left her bed. So that's pretty fantastic. You can literally take your classes from bed. Then Tuesday, we are going to be the tourist industry. Summer's just around the corner. Dress like a tourist. I don't know what that means. I'm probably going to wear this because as a tourist, I'll put a camera on. How about that? And then Wednesday is Hat Day because all we can see on Zoom is your heads, and I'm reading you. You can read it too. Dress is your favorite teacher day. I expect everyone to be wearing sweaters that they got in the mail because everyone wants to look like me. Put on fake beards. Take just the hair off the top of your head. That'll work for your beard. And then Friday, of course, as always, is Black and Gold. Black and Gold Week is a phenomenal week for everybody. Go ahead, Mr. Pernage, take that down. And then going into some of the things for Zoom Olympics. Number one, airplane contest. John is working super hard. John, give everybody a wave. There's John. John's waving and his hand's disappearing. John's working super hard getting you the information on so we can watch all the airplane entries. We're going to watch that on Thursday. Remember, by Friday at midnight, I need your dance-off video sent to southanchoragenews@gmail.com. southanchoragenews@gmail.com. You should be challenging your student or your parent. Hopefully you don't have both because that would be a little bit weird in this situation. To a dance-off. Learn the same dance with you both in frame, and let's get that going. And then we are also adding a new Zoom that will take place on Thursday because we have a special guest on Thursday, which we will go over in just a minute. In fact, we're going to go over that right now. Thursday's guest, before I kick it over to Tracy, and he sings us out for a wonderful, wonderful Tuesday. Next week, or 2 days feels like next week. This is only our 5th episode, people. I feel like I've been talking to you for years. We have state epidemiologist Melissa Boyette joining us here on Thursday. So get your questions over to southvote.com. We have a state epidemiologist who is on the team that is really fighting this COVID-19 project, and she's going to be here to answer some of those questions because we got a lot of information flowing around, like how do we take care of ourselves? Do we not touch our face if we've been at home for 3 weeks with no outside contact, or is it okay? And so kind of asking those questions to an epidemiologist as we go through it. Also, anything's on the table. So you can ask those questions that you've had, whether you're a student or a parent or a little kid. And then joining us on Thursday also is Mike Jipping. If you'll see right here, they have done a fabulous job hooking us up with some neat stuff to show you, and he will be on air with us on Thursday. They're the makers of Jipping Ginger Beer and Red Dragon Punch. They're Beach Soda Works, and he is going to join us on Thursday and give you recipes for mocktails, non-alcoholic drinks that you can mix up, shake up, have fun with, and then offer you a challenge to come up with better recipes for mocktails. So that's going to be super fun. I think Clara's set up in the back to win that one from what I can see. So that should be fantastic. She's got the practice. And so that's kind of what's going on the Den. And we appreciate all of you joining us. I am going to kick it over to Mr. Simmons. I'm going to mute my mic. I'm going to enjoy. We got an original song come from Tracy Simmons. I want to thank all of our guests that came in to talk to us today, and I want to thank you at home for watching and sharing and telling people to be involved, because you are the folks. You're really the folks that make all of this work. You're the reason we're still here. Those saved 5 people who joined us on that first day on a whim, you're the reason we're here. And if we drop down to 2 people, we're still going to be here, because I truly think this is a great space for you to get the news. So Tracy, if you would please take us away.
Awesome. Man, so great to be here, and you guys are doing a great thing. And listen, all you high school guys out there, guys and girls, your community feels your pain. We know what you're going through, and we know it's tough. I wrote this song a few years ago in a very scary time in my life, and I think the words are appropriate for this. It's not rock and roll, it's a ballady kind of thing, and hopefully it hits you in the feels. But ultimately, here's the deal, guys. Even if we're all locked up in these houses right now and can't do all the things that we would love to do and want to do, we still have an opportunity to make memories. I'm making one right now, because this will go down in some of my top remembrances of my life, is being involved in a moment like this with you guys and doing good things for our community. So that's what it's all about. If I never get to sing these words again, know this song is in my heart. And if we never get to lift our voices, friends, from this moment on we'll never be apart. And so today I sing, though the words will never be enough to say how much it means to share with you this lovely moment added to my yesterdays. I appreciate it. I feel that. Time can play its games with our memories, blowing thoughts around like leaves upon the ground. As they fall and drift and fade, we grab the best of them and press them in the pages of our minds. And so today I sing, though the words will never be enough to say how much it means to share with you this lovely moment added to my yesterdays. We fall as we rise, and losing courses through the moments of our lives. We recall through it all the beauty we discover grows through time. So I hope we get to sing these words again, and the songs that we have shared will mend our hearts. And if we get to lift our voices, friends, from this moment on we'll never be apart.
So once more we sing. May my final words be just enough to say how much it means to share with you this lovely moment added to my yesterdays. All right, wash your paws and keep your claws sharp, you filthy animals.